I think so. Like, there's no question in my mind. If transactions stay this cheap, there's so much money on Ethereum. Someone will turn up and go, "I'm going to build this thing, and it's going to, have hundreds of thousands of transactions and going to cause some chaos."
I mean, ultimately, it just feels super shady. It just feels completely anti Web3 and everything that we stand for. Like, users having the right to exit and like actually having the right is a huge part of what permissionlessness is.
Imagine if you just turn up to the Nasdaq and like stake some Nasdaq equity and
And
get to it's your own thing, right? Like, good stuff will happen and bad stuff will happen there, right?
huge unlock.
Just be a high integrity entrepreneur, and instead of just trying to like, both from an entrepreneurship perspective, like super lame. Like, that's like if ChatGPT like didn't let you use like Facebook.
Hey everyone, I'm Kain and welcome to the fourth episode of Uneasy Money, because what happens on chain never stays on chain. I'm here with Luca, CEO of Pudgy Penguins, and Tay from MetaMask. Before we begin, here's a word from our sponsors that make the show possible.
Are you a builder who needs to add on-chain trading to your product? The Uniswap Trading API from Uniswap Labs offers plug-and-play access to some of the deepest liquidity in crypto. It's on-chain execution at an enterprise level. More liquidity, less complexity. Visit hub.uniswap.org to learn more.
One quick thing before we start, nothing you hear on Uneasy Money is financial advice. We're just three builders talking about what's happening on chain, and we want you to always do your own research before aping in. All right, let's get into it today. We got a big day for Ethereum today. Fusaka goes live today. It feels to me, before we go into all of the things, because there's a bunch of things that are going live with this upgrade, but it feels to me like the shipping cadence of Ethereum has gotten so much faster now that we almost don't even notice these upgrades. Like, they just roll through like every couple of months, and we're like, like there was a period of time where it was like a year would go by, and we're like, oh, we're desperate for 1559. Like, when will it happen? And now it's like, oh God, another Ethereum upgrade. So I don't know about you guys, but the shipping cadence feels much, much faster these days.
Yeah, no, 100%. And also, it feels different. Like, I think there's still a lot of like big things that get very heavily debated, and people really, really, really want, and all these things. But it just feels like what's being shipped and I guess like the type of debate is different. It's much more productive.
More commercial, maybe. I don't, more aware of the market. I don't know. Yeah, it's
It's
definitely it's a different
pretty,
vibe. Vibes are
yeah.
different for sure. Like, there's no question. So maybe let's talk about it. I was actually a bit blindsided myself. On Monday, I was talking to a couple of our engineers, and one of them was like, this is like the SEPCA curve one where you get passkeys natively on chain, which has been on Polygon and I think a couple of L2s for a while. But I remember in 2023, we were talking about this because Infinex was looking at, would we use passkeys? Would we use passwords? Like, how are we going to do this? And, 2 years later, it was one of those ones where I'm like, this is never going to ship. Like, there's no way. Like, this is just going to sit there forever. We're never going to ship passkeys on chain, but it seems like it's here, which is pretty exciting. Because I think, from a UX perspective, once we figure out exactly how to dial this in, that's going to be pretty amazing. I think the other thing is, maybe this is something that no one was asking for, but blob space is going to increase by 8x. do we
Yay!
do we need more do we need more blobs? Like, what are we doing here? Why do we have so many blobs? This is yeah. So we can talk about scalability and what's happening with blob space and dig into that a little bit, because I think it's a very interesting market dynamic that we keep producing more block space yet are not consuming enough of it. But we'll let's talk about that in a second. So I think the other thing that's interesting about the blob space conversation is Ethereum gas hit like zero point 0.3 Gwei. And I remember in like, I want to say it was like April or May of 2018, we saw Gwei go under one. I don't know what the like all-time low of Gwei is, but we've got to be getting close here. Um, so this combination of like L2 proliferation, we have so many L2s, and we have scaled mainnet like actually to a crate. Like we've ripped out so many transactions off mainnet. We've scaled mainnet simultaneously. We've scaled blob space for L2s, and we now have like almost like gas-free transactions on Ethereum mainnet. It's pretty wild.
No, it is. And specifically on the gas one, the gas has always been super interesting because it's always been treated as a consequence of the block space, which it is to a certain extent. But there's actually like a huge number of factors that go into like what the gas price is, meaning like how expensive transactions are. And I think partially due to just how many L2s there are, and partially due to the overall demand of the market, but also partially due to people just being more aware of the gas price. All the wallets and all the interfaces, all the CLI tools have gotten so much better at really driving down the gas price for end users. And I just feel like it's never, it's like when you look at the charts, it's like dropped off, but we haven't seen that. I'm waiting for it to be seen with end users like realizing like what an unlock this is.
How cheap. Yeah, it's pretty great. Like, I mean, we must be getting into the vicinity for 21,000 gas, right? For maybe like to take a step back for a second. So, the entire reason why we went to this L2 scaling roadmap was that the L1 was so congested, right?
Mhm.
And why was the L1 congested? The L1 was congested because we had so many different transactions, and DeFi composability basically broke the L1. We had all of these different DeFi protocols that were all connected to each other, and if you touched one of them, you'd get this cascading chain of transactions that would kind of go on to infinity and then curl back on itself and like just start again, right? So if prices were ever moving, you just had this like insane number of transactions that would kind of cascade through because of all the L1s. We moved a lot of that liquidity off to L2s. We did a bunch of things that have scaled the L1, and we're now in this situation where like for an ETH transaction, it must be down to cents now. I haven't looked at it in a while, but like we're in the cents range, which when you think about coming out of the bear market in 2023, Solana's Ethereum still had scalability issues back then. Transactions were still expensive. And if you go back to DeFi summer, it used to be, I swear to you, you will not believe this, but it used to be $500 to claim your SNX staking rewards every week on mainnet.
It was a real blocker. Like it was actually
insane.
A blocker.
$500. Like what are we like? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Luca, you're very quiet there. I don't know if you're sitting here contemplating your life choices or what's going on, but are you gonna move back to mainnet? What's happening? What's going on?
Do it.
No, I mean, this is probably not my like field of expertise. I'd probably say cheaper transactions good. I think a huge reason why we didn't deploy Pengu on Ethereum mainnet at the time was because it just didn't make sense. The transactions were too expensive, and even then, it was trending obviously lower, but now it's like getting incredibly low. It's like to the point of feasibility. So, great moment for Ethereum. The only thing I can speak to about Ethereum is like, 8 months ago, 6 months ago, they started having like a founder success team. And that was like a huge breakthrough to me. So you might be looking at like the actual chain metrics. I'm looking at the fact that there's like a founder success team.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Like that's, I spent 3 years working, basically only on Ethereum and didn't even get an acknowledgement from anybody over there. Now I have like a direct line with somebody who will like retweet my tweets. Like, and that's like awesome.
It's much better. I agree with that. I think it's much better. The interesting thing, this is not the first time we've seen this movie. We've seen this movie before where transactions get cheap and then there is this kind of induced demand, but it has been a while now. Like, what would be a catalyst for Ethereum prices going up, right? Obviously, more transactions is one thing. What
Hmm.
what we haven't seen are people building contracts that like consume more gas, like not necessarily
Yeah.
intentionally, but like more complexity, right? So on Ethereum, the more computation, the whole point of the gas pricing is that it's about computation. This is a scarce, what used to be a scarce resource, now it's an abundant resource. So we have an abundant computational resource, right, that we're trying to price in real time, and we have too much of it. So I'm surprised that people aren't like doing crazy stuff, like putting, I don't know, like putting games on chain on like someone's going to do something crazy that's going to like cause gas to spike again for sure, but it just hasn't happened yet. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what we do about that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think Luca's point is part of it, right? It's like these L2s are all, and like even all L1s are all competing for the builders as they should be. And so, when you're making choices about where to ship, that plays a big role. I think the other thing is that it probably hasn't fully set in yet just how cheap L1 is. So, uh, like, I think that'll take some time. But I do think it's interesting. Like, it's not just, it's like there's this whole series of things that have all come together to unlock the current state, right? Like, it also used to be that people would like just spam transactions nonstop because that's how you would like win. And then now with like flashbots and MEV and like how that whole market has evolved, it's just a completely different game, right? So you just don't have that spam that would drive up the price and increase competition, even though there wasn't actually I mean, there was a competition, but it wasn't like real on-chain transactions, right?
Right. Yeah, fair. Yeah.
And so yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes next. And yeah, if we do get a game, just do we find some other fatal flaw in the mechanism design that we have to go, figure out
Go
and
and fix
address?
it. Yeah. I think so. Like, there's no question in my mind. If transactions stay this cheap, someone will turn. There's so much money on Ethereum. Someone will turn up and go,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm going to build this thing, and it's going to, have hundreds of thousands of transactions and going to cause some chaos. So moving on to our next topic, which I'm somewhat involved in. So Infinex launched a token sale via Sonar ahead of the INXTG. And boy, was it interesting. So, you know, historically, I have tried whenever there's some big thing that's going on, right? Some whether it's a Synthetix launch or something for Infinex, I try to look at the prior art and say, okay, what are all the things that people are doing? And crypto, prior art doesn't last very long. Like someone was doing something 6 months ago, like oftentimes it's completely dead. You can't do it that way anymore. You gotta try something else. But I looked at all the different things that people were doing, the objections people had, what people were looking for, etc. And also just trying to optimize the best thing for Infinex as well. And we proposed this sale. So we did an NFT sale a year ago, and the pricing was 125 million, 300 million, and 500 million FTV. 88% of people or something like that chose the 125 million FTV. Funnily enough, back then, the reason why most people told us they chose that with the longest lockup, right? So the 125 mil FTV had the longest lockup. The reason why they chose that is they were worried that we were going into a bear market. So already people are idiots. They have no idea what's going on, right? So that was the first thing. So we said, okay, we did this sale a year ago. We can't rug people by, offering the same terms a year later for the token. We've got to have some difference. And so we said, okay, we're going to do $300 million FTV, which is below the NFT price, but with a 1-year lockup. And so, like, oftentimes I'll write up a blog post, which is like, Bezos has this thing at Amazon where they write the press release first, right? And it's like, if the press release doesn't land, then like, get the fuck out, like, get out of the room, right? And so, I still wonder about that press release for the Fire phone. You remember the Fire phone that had like 8 LEDs around the screen? Like, how did that press release get there? They just kept adding more cameras. There were like 8 cameras, so it was like some weird thing. But so we said, okay, 300 mil, but we don't want people to feel like they're locked up and have no choice. So we'll give people a free option and an early exit clause. Now, oftentimes early exit clauses, like the prior art here is you get a bunch of tokens for a thing, for doing a thing, yield farming or some incentive, an airdrop or whatever, and they're locked. And if you want to leave, you lose some of the tokens. There's like a tax, an exit tax, like 50%, 70%, 80%. There's a lot of people that have done this. And it always struck me as like very punitive. Like the last thing I want to do is lose tokens to a project that I want, right? Like it just doesn't seem like a viable thing. Like if you said to me, like, I'll give you some Pengu and you can get liquidity after 3 months, but you got to lose half the Pengu, I'd be like, no, that's just like, I'm never doing that. It's a terrible idea, right? So what we said is, instead of losing tokens, you can just pay a higher price if you want to leave, right? And so we're like, let's just pick kind of an arbitrary price. We'll pick $1 billion as the exit clause. So if for some reason it's trading over $1 billion and you want to exit early, you can pay a little bit more and get out. But obviously that is also kind of punitive. That's fairly high price. So we'll have a decay curve, which goes from $1 billion down to 300 million over the course of a year. The conclusion on the timeline was, you're a monster trying to sell tokens at $1 billion. What the hell's wrong with you? Why are you pricing this token so expensively? It's like, no, guys. Like, this is just the game theory. Like, this is what we're trying to do. But it didn't really land on the timeline. So I don't know. Tay, what was your perspective as an outside observer? Like on my feed, it was just peak chaos. But yeah.
I mean, I did get it on my feed. I was like, oh damn. I was like, main character arc right here. Let's go. So it wasn't just your feed, as it sometimes is. I don't think people realize this. When you're the main character, like even a little bit of the main character, your entire worldview is shaped by people yelling at you. It is wild. And it's actually not an accurate representation of reality. You're like in your own little like bubble of hate, and it's really damaging. But yeah, so basically what Kane's asking is like, wait, but was it really like that? It was a bit. There was a bit. My favorite all-time comment that I've ever seen was this guy. I'll have to go back and find it. I don't even have the link, but it's so good. He basically was like, Kain is a scammer. This is a scam. These are the worst terms I've ever seen in my entire life. It's too much money, blah, 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 blah. But Infinex is a great product, and I'll continue to use it. And I was like, what?
My head of product like printed that out and was like, there you go. Like, my founder is a terrible person, but we're nailing the product, so who cares?
I was laughing so hard
funny.
because I think that's possibly the first time I've ever seen that argument on crypto Twitter ever. Because usually it's the inverse, right? Usually it's like, you guys don't even have a product and I hate your terms. And it's almost like the lack of the product or the fact that the product sucks or whatever, it's almost fueling the FUD and like triggering the FUD. This one I was like,
this
wow,
is the opposite. Like they're like, I really like this, but he's so bad that I have to hate it.
Yeah, I have to.
He's such a bad person. It was really funny.
So I don't know. You get like a badge or an unlock for that one, because that was just like an incredible, just incredible commentary. In general, though, I think my sort of overall takeaway, because I don't really care that much about any of the exact terms on any of these things. I just don't pay that much attention. It's just more of the same, like, larger debate discussion on, like, what are people optimizing for? What are end users expecting? What are the motivations of this? Like, why are people yelling? And, like, for me, it's, like, I don't know. I think we're in a weird place in the ICO arc. Like, we've been talking about these, like, Monad and like, for so long, right?
It's been like a year, yeah.
And I think people are probably like a bit apprehensive about the market in general, like, and then
but this is the funny thing. Like 2024, right? Like we did this NFT sale, and people were like, "I'm so worried about this bear market. It's coming in 20 minutes." And I was like, "I think you'll be okay, guys. Like, I don't know that we're in a bear market yet." So
Yeah,
yeah, people are
yeah,
always
it's
worried.
pretty
People
interesting.
like people who haven't been through multiple cycles, I think, always over-index on like there's two components to it. One is bull markets are tiring as fuck. Like it is
Hmm.
so tiring to go through a bull market that by the time you're like 6 months in, there is a part of your brain that's like, I'm done. Like it can be the best, most fun party ever, but after 3 days, you're like I just want to go home and sleep. Like, please. But there's no getting off. You can't get off the merry-go-round. It's like, no, sorry, you're chained to this thing. You're gonna keep going until you pass out. So I think there is an element of like people are kind of hoping that it's over, like a pullback of like 20%. They're like, oh yeah, finally this is over. But then hilariously, when it actually is a bear market, 20 minutes after that, they're like, please bring the bull market back. This is a
Like, oh
nightmare.
no,
Everything's
yeah.
dying. It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. I don't know, Luca, what was your did that get into the Luca bubble at all? This Infinex
It got into the Luca bubble, but the Luca bubble has a different opinion nowadays than he probably might have had in the past. I mean, dude, it's going to fill here today, gone tomorrow. Once it fills, everyone's going to be aligned and saying it's the best thing ever. And you could airdrop them all the entire supply. They'll find a way to FUD it. So, somebody, I think Guy might have coined this, but the peanut gallery, I really like that term of the peanut gallery. Just a bunch of peanuts, peanut gallerying away. Nobody's serious in the comments, saying anything. It's just not serious people. So it's just like a very interesting thing. Just I'm learning this. I've learned this deeply over the last couple of years, but as I get older in this space, month over month, the more that I just realize it's like there's the peanut gallery and then there's the serious people. Like no serious people were under your post, like saying anything that like caught my
freaking
eye
out.
that made
Yeah.
me like want to go and like read up on it. Just like the
Yeah.
peanut gallery just clickety clacking their shells. And I was just like, all right, Kain will be fine tomorrow.
Well, so that one of the most funny things for me, right, is like there are this new, and every single cycle there's a new cohort of KOLs that emerge, right? So there were this new cohort of KOLs who have emerged. Some of them out of the InfoFi arc, whatever. But one guy was this guy Whale Dot Mocha, right? And he was really like anti the terms, hated the terms, whatever. I don't know that he's ever used Infinex, so he doesn't know what the product is, but just in principle didn't like the terms. Which I was like, okay, fine. But then I was like, guys, and this was a little bit of a skill issue, and if I could go back, I would do this a different way. I was like, in 2 days, we have this CT Mafia blood money crates drop where we're dropping crates to all of the CT Mafia. If you guys just waited like 2 days, you get paid your blood money and you wouldn't need to FUD it. But the hilarious thing is, so 2 days later, he gets his crates, he opens up a bunch of crates, gets some prizes, and he's like, actually, I changed my mind. This is really good. I like it. I was like, there you go. But it's like the mafioso that's like, hey, nice project. It'd be a shame if it burned down. But he's already burned it down. He burned the house down, and then he's like, actually, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. You're actually a good kid. I'm sorry about that. So yeah, it was quite hilarious to observe the pivot, the pivot to like maybe like vague tolerance from hatred. But yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. So next thing that I think we wanted to talk about was HIP-3, this upgrade to Hyperliquid. So this has been a thing that's been rolling out now for a little while. Was proposed maybe like 6 months ago or something like that, and has been slowly rolling out. I think it's very interesting to see how Hyperliquid has been going about moving from this very centralized listing process and control from the team to opening up to the community. And I think one thing that they've been doing really well is saying, okay, if you want to do stuff on Hyperliquid, if you want to come in and you participate in the ecosystem, build things in the Hyperliquid ecosystem, we're going to have a very clear requirement of just staking hype, which is a bit different to like OG DeFi days. OG DeFi days, you might have to stake the token to vote, but you were just like one person voting, right? So you go and get a bunch of Aave and you're like, you've got 3% of the vote. You can't actually sway a vote, right? So almost nothing would happen. This is a bit different where they're saying like, just stake 50 bips of the supply or what, not maybe not even that, maybe like 5 bips of the supply, right? Like a few $1 million worth of tokens, and it's an open playing field. You can go and do whatever you want, which to me, like from a permissionlessness standpoint, feels like much more aligned. I think it's a much smarter. I'm sure there's been examples of this of happening historically, but this to me, this cycle with Hyperliquid, where it's like, come and stake this amount of hype and you can do this thing. Come and stake this amount of hype, you can do this thing. Just from a governance and kind of coordination perspective, feels so much more aligned in how that they've done this. So the most interesting thing, though, for me, I think, is that we now have like YOLO equity perps, which I didn't think was going to happen this quickly. Like, I know it's crime season, but I going back to like OG Synthetix days, Mirror Protocol, we did equity, not even perps, right? Just tokenized equities. We did it for like 30 minutes, and every single, like, not even my lawyers, just like any lawyer that I came across was like, bro, you need to shut this down immediately. Like, this is a terrible idea. And now we've got like the largest DEX with like permissionless equity perp contracts. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I'm looking at the numbers right now. This is, I don't know. I feel like this is a huge unlock. Like,
Explain how this works, though, Kain, technically, if you don't mind, or Tay, if either of you know how this works technically.
Yeah,
like,
so I mean,
obviously,
old perps,
it's not like a debt receipt on like the
yeah,
Nasdaq. So
old
like,
perps are like
how is
synthetic
this
contracts,
functionally?
right? Like,
This is
they
like
they have an
just
oracle
hands-up
price that
action, and you just
looks at the price of gold
pricing
or
the hands-up.
whatever, right? And says, okay, gold's 4,000 an ounce, and then they have a mechanism that kind of keeps the traders in line, whether it's a funding rate or something. So there's an external source of pricing data that's pulled in, and then it lets people trade contracts with leverage on that pricing data, right? So if you think gold's going to $5,000 an ounce, you can go long. If you think it's going back to 3,000 an ounce, you go short. You're not trading gold. No one's moving gold around in like buckets, right? It's purely a paper trading system, and this is the same thing with equities, right? If you're trading 30x leverage NVIDIA contracts, like, there's no NVIDIA being harmed in this process. But trading securities and derivatives of securities, like, I don't know, bro. Like, I don't know what happened to the SEC, but I remember those guys used to be pretty aggressive. And yet, again, like, here we are.
yeah, I mean, that's, I don't know. I do feel like this industry is really good at, like, we get an inch and then we just
Just go like so hard. Gensler must be rolling in his grave right now. Like, what? Like,
I mean,
imagine the seethe and cope that's going on in that guy's head. I mean, we saw that lady. I can't remember her name. Like, on the timeline for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Mary or something like that.
Karen.
That was like losing her mind. The Karen from the SEC.
Yeah.
Was
Let's
like
go with that.
losing her mind. Like, losing her mind. She was like, you people are so, you just, like, if you come out and say Hayden is effectively a criminal, right? Like, the most, like, friendly, law-abiding, like, like, flowers and rainbows guy in crypto, and you're like, this guy is the devil. It's like, bro, you're not even close. Like,
Yeah.
anyway, so Yeah.
No, and I mean, that was the problem with the SEC, right? Like, that era of the SEC was just, one, everything is crime. Two, actually not everything is crime. Only like the legit players that
It's
are like within
crazy.
our orbit are the
I know.
criminals.
I
And
know.
meanwhile, every actual user, every actual person, there is actual harm in this industry. And the SEC's like, no, it's Hayden.
Hayden
It's
and
Coinbase.
Uniswap,
It's
they're the
like,
ones that are bad, right? Like
you
what?
know. So that's, yeah. And I think that this is, if you look at like, how does this industry get to a point where we're not like, if the goal is not necessarily like whatever the SEC, right? Just ignore the SEC. If the goal is like, let's have better markets, let's have less harm, let's have more understanding, right? How do we get there? To a certain extent, the answer has to come from within this industry in order to have that buy-in and legitimacy. On the other hand, like, it also has to be like, I don't know, the second that you go too hard on any one end, you just risk this like rebellious blowback that's super unproductive. This industry is so good at just taking anything and then just running with it. And then the second that you're like, okay, maybe that wasn't the best idea in the world, they like just 180 and just go the other direction. And like, I don't know. I think we will eventually have to get to a place where everything is just more is like these smaller iterations in reaction to like real issues and harm, and like go from
I think,
there.
you know,
Like,
the interesting thing to me is like I had dinner with Hayden and Robert Leshner from Compound in like 2022, right? And we were still in this mindset of like the SEC is just like a little bit confused about what's going on, and if we could just educate them and explain to them why this is going to create more efficient markets. And then a year later, we had dinner again, and we're like, oh, they're trying to kill us. Okay, like that. It's totally, we were just so naive and oblivious to like what was actually going on. But the problem is, and I've said this many times, like if someone's trying to kill me, I'm gonna kill back. Like I'm not just gonna sit. Like once it's very clear that this is not like a friendly, let's educate the person. It's like no. If you're gonna like start firing, you know, nukes at us, we're gonna fire back. And that's the problem. Is like that then creates this mindset in the industry of like, okay, now it's adversarial, and you can't be educated. You don't care about what we're trying to do. And if you can kind of weaponize someone like Hayden, like you've done something horribly wrong,
so
right?
bad.
Like
Yeah.
if Hayden gets radicalized, like you're in a bad place.
Yeah, and the end effect of it, right, is that the whole industry and the best builders in this industry, right, the best legal minds, the smartest people who like actually knew what was up and actually were potentially in a place to improve the ecosystem, spend all their time and energy fighting the SEC. Like that was
Yeah.
it. And the goal was not necessarily to like their focus was just primarily on like survival and not being destroyed. Now it's like, okay, it's a free for all, but nobody's really taken the time to ask and understand and dive into like what's the best possible path for us.
Yeah.
Because everyone's been so busy fighting, like just like trying to not die.
I mean, look
And
at like all of governance. Like there's
yeah,
so much
this is what I
governance nonsense.
mean.
I know this is triggering for you, right? Like it was like, okay, actually no one's in charge, guys. There's like a computer
It's
somewhere. It's maybe in charge. We don't really know. We can't do anything. We've got no idea. And it was all this like smoke screen because again, like, you know, and this is my point, right? If you're like, oh, there are people trying to break into my house and kill my family, it's like, well, I'm like, I got a couple of shotguns now, right? Like I'm gonna defend myself. So you know, and like having a bunch of shotguns in your house is net negative for everyone. Like bad stuff's gonna happen, right? Like, but it's like you don't have a choice. There's people coming in and gonna break the door down and try and you know, carry you off to the gulag.
yeah.
Anyway,
Well, that's okay. So with regards
yeah,
to, I mean, it's everything. It's literally every product decision, every company decision right now, governments, like product priorities, right? When we look at like Hyperliquid, right? I think this is a huge unlock for them, right? They're basically like layering, leveling up in a way where they've unlocked other people's ability to create basically markets, right? And it's not just assets, it's like entire sort of little markets. And then there's assets on these individual markets, right? That's great. That's I think that there's like a huge amount of value to unlock here.
Permissionless NASDAQ. Like
it's wild.
Like imagine if you just turn up to the NASDAQ and like stake some NASDAQ equity and get to like list your own thing, right? Like good stuff will happen and bad stuff will happen there, right? And this is kind of
and huge unlock, like full stop,
massive
like,
unlock.
Okay. Also, probably a lot of different risks and like a lot of different risks over a huge area.
But you know, it's funny, right? Okay, a bunch of risks, and people will lose some money, but the end result is like the market progresses, we learn some things, and it's not like you can prevent bad things from happening just because you're a regulated market. Look at SPACs. SPACs just like was scorched earth across, and like this is not happening in DeFi. It's happening in the middle of TradFi. In the middle of TradFi, while the craziest SEC in history is running amok, and like the SPAC boom happens, right? So it's not like there's some magic wand of like, oh, let's just regulate and like that will solve all the problems, right? Like it's, regulators are not magicians.
No, they're really bad actually, because they actually are quite like they're mostly oriented towards things that are not necessarily like getting the best outcomes. Like they have all their other motivations, so that like always makes things messy, obviously. They're very slow and inefficient, which is sometimes a good thing, but obviously when you have an ecosystem that's rapidly evolving, like the faster that you can respond to like live issues and live risks and like, help steer, or like, oh, it's literally they're running headlong into the rocks and continuously crashing. Like you have to be able to like with a more iterative, gentle hand, like,
guide people to some, but I think that is like fundamentally a problem, right? If if you're like, I mean, imagine you're sitting there at the SEC and you're like, okay, I am so slow, it takes me a year to do anything, right? Like, and there's going to be so much harm that will come from all of these things. I can see how you could get yourself to the point where like, shut it down, right? And that's like SEC Karen was like, we gave you guidance in 2019 on like this one thing. What is your problem? Like, just don't do anything else. And it's like, well, that's not going to work. So we're going to continue discussing DeFi, but DeFi on Solana and some Solana DeFi drama after a message from our sponsor.
Hey, founders and developers. If you're looking to bring on-chain trading to your product, wallet, or platform, check out the new Uniswap Trading API from Uniswap Labs. It's your plug-and-play gateway to global on-chain liquidity. No deep crypto experience required, and no need to manage complex integrations or ongoing maintenance. With the Uniswap Trading API, you'll get enterprise-grade on-chain execution, combining both on-chain and off-chain sources for the most competitive prices. Simply put, more liquidity, less complexity. And this isn't just any API. It connects directly to the Uniswap protocol, which has securely processed over $3.3 trillion in total volume with zero hacks. So stop worrying about liquidity infrastructure and focus on building your product. Get access to the same liquidity that powers billions in swaps through one powerful API. Visit hub.uniswap.org to learn more.
All right. It wouldn't be an Uneasy Money episode if we didn't mention Kyle Samani at some point. So we got a little bit of drama in the Solana DeFi ecosystem. So I woke up, I think maybe yesterday, and I'm in the Solana DeFi Telegram chat, and usually it's fairly sleepy. And there's like 30, 50 messages a day or something like that. I woke up and there were like 1,500 unread messages, and I was like, either it's some giant hack or like some crazy drama is going on, and it turns out it was drama. So there was a dispute, I guess, between Kamino, and I'll put my hand up and say I'm an investor in Kamino, which is the lending protocol, and Jupiter, which is now an everything protocol. They started as a DEX, but they do everything now, which is, I think, part of what's going on here. I think Jupiter's the biggest DeFi project in the Solana ecosystem, and they're just stepping on everyone's toes. Like every single thing that anyone is doing well in Solana DeFi, Jupiter is like, yeah, we'll do that too. Like getting into perps, getting into lending, getting into everything. They want to be this kind of everything financial app within Solana. So Kamino was like, well, how about we just stop people from leaving Kamino? We'll just block people from being able to go to Jupiter Lend's new address, which, yeah, I don't know. And I don't know where we got to. Like, I think this is like on chain, so I think we know that this happened. They hard coded it, and then Casamani was like, "No, guys, you don't understand. Kamino users are just choosing Kamino. This has nothing. This is just a choice thing, right? Like they're just choosing to do it. And also, if they happen to not be choosing it, really, it's Kamino just protecting themselves from the risk of Jupiter." Two very classic Casamani takes on the world. Yeah, what do we think about blocking people from going to other DeFi protocols?
I'm Team Jupiter on this one. I'm Team Jupiter on this one. I mean, look, it's not DeFi if you do that, right? Like, frankly, unless like you're preventing some sort of systemic risk, which like maybe at least in the beginning I thought was like, well, maybe they're like trying to like stop like some elaborate looping scheme and like the two commingling or is like creating this scheme. But at the end of the day, like that's DeFi, right? Like even if that was the case, doesn't seem like it is necessarily, but I'm Team Jupiter. And at the end of the day, like if Jupiter is just going to go and take everyone's lunch, like that's and everybody else's problem. That's not a Jupiter problem. And it seems like the consumer is losing because Jupiter is doing great work and their competitors are upset. So I think Kamino, and I like the Kamino guys too. Those guys, a lot of the Solana guys are over in Miami. And so, huge Drift, Kamino, the whole, Margin Fi, love all those guys. But to be frank, like Jupiter's in the right here, Kamino's in the wrong. I'd fix it if I was them. Like, I'll optimize for the user experience and the user above all else. And Jupiter has an amazing team. I mean, like I'm in Jupe land. I'm everywhere over in Jupiter land. It's the only thing I use to. I've said this for a while. I think Solana's not Solana without the Jupiter team. I really believe that. I thought Solana was.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
Around, so I thought it changed everything for them.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it just feels super shady. It just feels completely anti-Web3 and everything that we stand for. Like users having the right to exit and like actually having the right is a huge part of what permissionlessness is. I think that Kyle's argument is like, well, they can still technically leave. And that's a similar argument that like a wallet could make, right? Like a wallet could say like, they can still technically go send all of their money somewhere else and not use our product if we start to screw them over. But that's like a huge barrier. And that it's a huge barrier, right? It's not super genuine to like stand on that position, especially if they have the ability to do that and you're actually removing their ability to do that. It's different if there's other like other considerations and that was the best product decision for other reasons and it had that like as a downstream consequence. I'm not seeing that here though, right? Like
no.
Users had the ability to, right? They had the ability to do this thing. And then
I mean, Jupe Lend didn't exist, right? So it wasn't like Kamino was like, let's hard code this thing to stop people from being able to leave until they started leaving. And then they're like, what if we could stop them? What if we had the technology to stop them from leaving?
That's, and from a purely selfish financial business thing,
So
Yeah.
business, it's an interesting. So this is my hot take on this though, right? Solana is a much more commercial ecosystem,
It
right?
is.
And I'm sure that some crazy DeFi project has tried to do something like this before. So I don't want to pretend like Ethereum is, somehow completely above all of
Okay,
this.
wait, but hold
But
on. We
yeah,
did. Sushi Swap literally came out of nowhere and literally
yeah,
vampired all of Uniswap,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And what did
yeah.
Uniswap do? They did not block, right? They did not,
Oof.
right? They were like, all right, we're gonna have to drop a token too then.
Yeah, which was great for everyone. But
Exactly.
this is my sort of question or point, I guess, on this, right? It's like Solana is a much more commercial ecosystem. It has much more commercially minded people. It has attracted more commercially minded people. Um, I think that there is, and this is kind of weird when you think about it, that like the Ethereum, you know, pure decentralized ethos, somehow that the vibes of that prevented any large scale protocols from playing these kinds of games. Whereas that doesn't really
Hmm.
exist in the Solana ecosystem. So it's sort of like gloves off. Your business is being attacked by another business. You need to do what you can to prevent it. And the Overton window is like a bit different on Solana, it seems like.
No, this is. I wouldn't even look at it through that lens. I'd look at it through the lens of entrepreneurship. And if you were to look at it through that lens, like Solana's tagline is "Ship or Die." I can tell you, I'm a Solana power user and DeFi power user. I actually only use Solana DeFi instead of. I don't use any Ethereum DeFi, with the exception of a little bit of size on Athena and Aave. Juplend is the better product. Like, I just hate to break it. It's easier, it's simpler, the yield feels better. So like at that point, like just be a high integrity entrepreneur, and instead of just trying to like, both from an entrepreneurship perspective, like super lame. Like that's like if Chat GBT like didn't let you use like Facebook, or like
Dude, I bet.
Instagram.
Okay, hang on. But ask ChatGPT about Claude, and it pretends like it doesn't know that Anthropic exists. It's actually hilarious. If you go, like, I've had weird issues with Anthropic and Claude and Cursor, right? And if you go to ChatGPT and you say, "Hey, I'm using Cursor and I'm trying to figure out this setting or whatever," it's like, "Do you mean the thing that shows up on the screen when you're about to type?" And it's like, what? No, I obviously don't mean that. And like, I mean the AI platform. You know what I'm talking about? It's like, no, I've never heard of this product before.
Well,
So
it's
this,
one
like,
thing
Web
not to
two does
loop
this
into
stuff.
one another and like integrate. Like I could still steel man that though a little bit and just be like, okay, like Kamino doesn't need to like hop into this pool, or you would know the terminology better, but like they cannot be commingled in any way, and like obviously that would hurt both of their like TVL or like maybe some like yield parameters, but like completely saying like my users can't, go over there. Great. Like Juplend's the better product. I don't have this problem because I actually just moved 2 weeks ago my money off of Kamino to Juplend because I was like, why am I
You
diversified?
front you front ran the
You
exit.
front ran
Yeah.
it. You
Juplend was the
caused
better
this,
experience.
Luca. This is your
Yeah,
fault.
they saw
They're like,
literally
where's
Kamino
our
saw
size
Luca's
going?
wallet leaving, and they're like, "We got to stop this mass exodus. We're drawing a line. Once Luca leaves, it's over for us." So, all right, moving on
Okay, but wait, hold on.
yeah,
Sorry,
okay,
I have
okay,
one
you go
last thing.
more.
Okay,
Okay,
here's the difference between the Web3 and DeFi way of thinking about things and the TradFi way, and it's actually really important to like remember this because it's not actually that Web3 is like less valuable, right? Like the moat exists if you block in your users and you keep them, that there's value there, right? The whole point and the whole thing that Web3 is, and DeFi especially, has proven is that with more interoperability, with more people doing more things and having more freedom, there's more value on the table, right? And so when I look at a decision like this, it feels very like TradFi Web2, lock everyone in, try to keep it for yourself, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's a completely wrong mentality, not because it's not like a moat. It is a moat. There is value there. You can count that value, but it's not as valuable as if you were to like prioritize on leveling everyone up, because that's what's going to really get those again, like just look at the stuff in even just like 2019 2020, like early DeFi, like that would have never been possible. And
If people are locking
not,
things down, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
the
Agreed.
interoperability is what creates more value. And it's like only if you're really in this very old way of thinking that you don't see that. And so like I would argue this is a bad business decision for them, not because of the blowback, not because of the moat. Like it's a bad business decision because you're clearly not, like you clearly have not realized the true value and the potential value of what you could access and what you could get for your users. And that's going to end. Like that's why you're leaving value on the table ultimately, right? You can
So I
lock
guess the
everyone up all
question
you
is like,
want, but
does the organism reject this sort of thing, right? Like, given that people have choice, given that people, is this something where people go, no, hang on, like we have, we can move and go somewhere else, and if you guys are going to play these kinds of games, then we're gonna just exit. We're gonna hit the escape hatch.
I mean, one, I think people will exit, not to a degree that makes a huge, I mean, maybe, but probably not to a degree that makes a huge amount of difference. I think what ultimately, like if I was an investor in Kamino, I would be saying, guys, you need to understand where the value unlocks are and how to like empower people and get in on like these unlocks, right? And the interoperability, because if you do that successfully, then like the sky's the limit. But if you continue down this mindset of like our value is only what we can capture and therefore lock everything in and try to keep people and count the users, like I would just worry about long term, like what their product looks like, what choices they make, how they expand their product. And I think it's self-defeating in this industry, not because people will yell at you on Twitter, but because there's actually just less value on the table.
Yeah, fair. I'll clip that and send it to him.
Thanks, Kain.
So two more kind of interrelated topics to round it out for today. The first one is Anthropic is attacking our protocols. It turns out they've got a red team that's I guess trying to figure out crypto exploits, and then coincidentally, at the exact same time, Yearn Finance was exploited, and we've had now some like, it just feels weird that my spidey senses are tingling. I mean, Tay, you must have some thoughts on this. Like, why do these old vaults keep getting exploited? Is this just like people see it happening and then they go, actually, maybe there's more kind of exploits available here, and they go back to this old stuff? I would have thought people were poring over this old stuff all the time anyway. And like anything that's got like, eight, nine figures of money that's been just sitting there for a while. Like what's going on here?
Yeah. I mean, Yearn definitely feels very similar to Balancer. It's not, and not necessarily because of the technicals or attribution or any of that. It just feels similar that you have these sort of like these OG protocols that are perceived to be robust. And then all of a sudden this thing happens that nobody thought was possible. I do suspect that Yearn, well, I suspect that Balancer probably has influenced a lot of people to go back and look more carefully about at the old contracts and be like, maybe these things aren't as robust as everyone assumes. I think the other thing though is that if you really sort of understand deeply the Balancer exploit, there's like another takeaway here, which is that there's a lot of assumptions that builders and even auditors and even like red teamers just have about smart contracts and how they operate and like what's a flaw and a weakness and what's not. And if you can find the right set of conditions and invariants, then those assumptions break and then you can hack the thing. And I think that in both these cases, it took a long time for the best experts in the space to deeply understand the root cause and all of the contributing factors. Like it's not everyone that was tweeting, by the way, in both incidents instantly like, here's the root cause. They were wrong.
They were yeah.
Really, really wrong. These things were complex. There was a lot of different things that happened. Part of it is understanding exactly what the attack did, but then also understanding like the true root cause. in both cases, it is not a simple answer.
It's
You'll
non-trivial,
see-
right?
Yeah. And so I think that, yeah. And I don't know. People keep asking me if it's AI. It's not AI. And the Anthropic thing, which we'll talk about in a second, proves it's not AI, right? Like, these are the best guys who are going deepest on the best data sets. However,
what's your take on the Anthropic red team stuff? I think a lot of people are like, AI is going to kill us all, which it will, but like not through DeFi exploits is the hot take, I guess.
Yeah. So the research is really good. It's really like, it's robust research. It's like actual research. It's not like as exciting Twitter wise, because it's not like we hacked everything. It levels everything up. It defines standards for these sorts of things, which other people will then be judged against, and things will progress. I think it's super interesting that they were able to actually find a kind of a lot of exploits. And even though these exploits weren't necessarily like, these $100 million things, there was still quite a lot of them, including some active ones that were live and had been live. And so I think one of my takeaways was this is super cool, because there is a whole demographic of builders and smart contract people that just like don't actually take security and testing and bug bounty seriously whatsoever.
No,
and they just exist on chain. They just exist on chain, and there's money in them. And so the issue historically is that like, if there's no incentive to hunt for it except to hack it, then you're only going to hack it. If you can lower that barrier to entry, meaning if AI can just go out there and like look for these things, there's a potential that you save people's money, because it's the cost of like finding these things.
I mean,
goes
audits
down.
are expensive, right? Like, and not fault free, right? Like every one of these things, like Balancer had like some crazy number of audits.
They had like
over the
10,
years, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like, and I mean, as someone who's done a lot of audits, I'm sure, all three of us have been through the audit process many, many times. Like, you can do an audit and then you can send it to another auditor and they're like, here's the high sev thing. It's like, oh, wow, we went through 3 rounds of audits with the other guys. And it's just like different set of eyes, different perspective, different, different priors about how things hook together. And all of a sudden someone goes, wait. And then as soon as you show it to the other team, they're like, oh, wow. Yeah, we really missed this. Like, wow, like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not like they're like, no, we don't think that's real, right? They're like, it's always like, oh, yeah, that was a thing that, we didn't think through. So I guess in theory, you throw like AGI at all of our contracts and it takes all the money, finds ways.
Yeah. And that's what this Anthropic research is pushing forward. Is definitely not like 100% there yet in terms of like finding a balancer. But you can definitely imagine that it's like, again, it's another tool in the tool chest. It's another thing with different incentives and different motivations that can go out and find things. And that ultimately will help protect people, right? Ultimately, and it can also be used by bad guys to hack more things, but, we'll
Hopefully we'll get
deal
there.
with that.
And if you lower the cost, it becomes better.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I better run so I don't miss my flight. I'm about to head on a plane. So yeah, this has been fun. That's it for this episode of Uneasy Money. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, follow us on the Unchained feed on X, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And I'll see you guys next week. Later.
Awesome.